up as sisters and brothers, slept in the same bed, went to the same schools. I mean, always giving, sharing all your clothes, you know, car rides. They all happen to have children now, babysitting their children. I mean, doing all of these things. And I actually hopped on one foot at one point, taking children to and from school when I had foot surgery. But one issue happened, and it was just a verbal disagreement. I did not agree from where you were coming from, and I have not spoken to them in 7 years. And then from that one disagreement, like the nuclear, then it turned into like, I feel as though the rest of the family has jumped on the bandwagon. So I am really excluded from all other family activities. Although I live here and they may live up north, that would be, you know, nothing to stop me from going to, should it be, I don't know, a graduation, a wedding, but I have been, I don't know, excommunicated, I guess. So I'm in disagreement.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because I think it's really important information, because the truth of it is that we don't always get the love back that we want. It's certainly nice to give it and get it back, but that's not always the case. And I can only speak to my own life experiences about that. First, for me, what I have to decide is, do I want to have a relationship with that person? And if I do, and it's in a difficult one, then I have to decide for myself, how do I want to go about that? How close do I want to be to that person? For me, in my marriage, and I spoke about this very openly, I was married to somebody that had an addiction. And I have I have a twin sister that has mental illness, so how do you deal with that? And the truth is, I had to detach with love. Because detaching with love is about what comes from us. There's times where I couldn't be with the people that I love the most. But when you detach with love, you still can do kind things for those people. But I did make the decision, and I think you have to be very clear. I do want to, you either go one or two directions. I do want to have a relationship with that person, I say to myself, or I'm done with this person. And anybody that knows me in this room knows when I'm done with somebody, I'm really done with you. And just recently I went through this. And I have made a conscious decision. I don't want anything to do with this person. And I don't even care if I detach from love. I don't want to have communication with this person. And that's okay. It's really okay to say, that's my decision. If something changes down the road, then it changes down the road. But for today, I want nothing to do with that person. Over here, for the people, like you talk about family members, that you might be struggling with that relationship. For me, those people are dear to my heart, and I felt that I needed to somehow figure out how I was going to talk with them and communicate. And in the case of my husband, it might have been only on a Sunday morning. Would I have liked a whole lot more? Absolutely. Was my love tank out the door? Was it depleted? Absolutely. But for me, I needed to work through that relationship with him, because I had a very deep love for him. Even though he was very sick, even though I wasn't getting what I needed, it was important for me to give him what I had in my heart, in hopes that it would make a difference for him. And on his dying bed, I know that it made a difference. And I know that I led my husband to the Lord. What better feeling? I mean, it gives me goosebumps to know that he wrote me his last letter on my birthday. And it said, thank you for sharing Jesus with me, and thank you for teaching me how to take care of myself. I mean, to this day, it's just ingrained in my mind. So you don't know how you're going to make a difference with people. You have to pick and choose who you want to have a relationship with, and when it's difficult, detach with love. That's how I do it. Has anybody else had anything else to share, and how they maybe coped with a situation like that?
What I was thinking when you said that, life is short, and it's been 7 years. Is there a way you guys can make up? Because that's what
No,
came to me.
actually, I tried to use a mediator, like a different family member, because I thought that by me approaching them, that it would just not be a good situation. So I thought by using another family member as the mediator to say, hey, look, like you said, life is too short. Come on, this is family. It's just a verbal disagreement. No one got hurt. No one's money was stolen. No one's child was, you know, hurt or anything. You didn't lose property or anything. However, they decided they weren't going to do it at all. So, and so it's kind of, it's difficult because it's not just one or two. It is like it has just infected the rest of them, whereas they don't want to, I guess, associate because then you're guilty by association. And just to give you an example, I went up north this summer for 3 months. I grew up in Michigan, and just by chance, and I know it was God, I was pumping gas or putting gas in my vehicle. And I looked up, and I thought that was my cousin. But I said, well, no, it couldn't have been her. So I said, let me sit here and wait. And so the person came back out of the gas station, and sure enough, it was her. So I said, well, do I get out of my car? Do I approach? And I was like, no, I don't want to approach because she might take the gas and spray it on myself.
Oh my goodness.
I was like, but then I'm thinking, if I never said anything, I missed my opportunity.
Yes,
Absolutely.
that's it.
So what I did was I mustered enough strength and I pulled up next to the pump and I tooted the horn like, hi, how are you? With the windows down. And they were on their cell phone and they were caught so off guard. They were like looking at me like this, like, I don't believe this is a person. And they were like shell shocked. And I sat in my car, you know, it seemed like 5 minutes, but it must be like 2 to 3 minutes or something. And nothing. And I just said, okay, bye, hope all is well. And I just drove off.
So did you feel at that moment you did all you could?
I did, but by the time I made it to my next stop, I was like boo-hooing and crying, and I'm calling my mom, and I'm like, oh my God, you know, because we graduated the same graduating class, same, ran on the track team, did everything together, and it's more like a sister cousin versus just a cousin, and I'm like, she didn't even acknowledge me, so I was like, okay. So after I boo-hooed to my mom, then she was like, it'll be okay, and
So is
that
it
was
possible that you've done everything in your power?
I've done everything I can.
Okay.
But the only, like I said, the issue for me, and I'm still dealing with it, okay, if it's just you guys over here, or you 3 or 4 over here, but now it seems to have infected the rest of the family, 'cause I don't get invited to anything.
Is there one of them that are extra special to you out of all of them? Is there one person in that group that's really extra special?
That's the one that was at the gas station.
Okay.
Have
Okay.
you tried writing a letter?
No,
Have you haven't?
I didn't think about that.
Mhm.
But then again, I
Well,
don't know
maybe
if she,
tonight.
if she saw the letters, like she knows it's for me. You know, I don't know.
So
Under an
Or you
email,
can
write a
put the
letter.
intent was made on your
that's a
behalf.
great
I
suggestion.
mean,
Okay, thank you. I never
and if
thought of that.
anything, it'll make you feel better that you wrote it. You make a copy of it. You'll have that peace, and you'll have forgiveness. Because as Lorraine said, life is too short, and God asks us to forgive. We might not forget, but we need to forgive, and we need to move forward.
Right.
And, you know, once you've done that, I really feel like you'll really be able to have, you know, like I said, more peace within yourself
Okay.
and within your family. And, you know, you've done all you can do, and you just need to pray and give it to God. And if you've truly given it to God, then there's nothing else we can do. I've been through certain situations, a little bit different, but the thing is I'm still like, okay, why did this happen? But you know what? I had to give it to God, because why would I let that control my life, my heart, my passion for what I do? Because if I did, I'd be a real mess.
Correct.
I'm already a hot mess.
It's all about how you feel after you've reached out in a special way. And, you know,
Oh yeah, sorry.
I'd like Double Love to speak on this a little bit too, because as my friend, she's had a relationship with a friend, a male friend, where she's had to reach out, and maybe she's not getting the responses that she really wanted. Would you like to just maybe share a little bit about that?
Sure.
Because sometimes we have expectations, and if you do something like write a letter and you don't get anything response back, you can still feel good about like what Jody Lynn said. Yeah, you know, yeah.
Well, my situation is I've been a widow for 9 years, and this is the first person that came into my path in April. And as I'm sitting here, he did all these 5 love languages. He did every one of them towards me. And literally, I pushed him away because I didn't think he was perfect. Now I'm making myself sound like a real jerk, but you know, that's how I thought, like, oh my God, if I'm not going to marry this guy, but he was the first person that came, you know, into my path. And as I'm sitting here now, I'm like, wow, he did this, he did this, he did this, he did this. And I didn't do that because I didn't want to lead him on.
Okay.
And then when he was gone, when I did push him away, I was like, oh wow, I really miss him. And so I tried, and you know what, it like kind of, you know, I think he was open to it at first, and then just recently, it just like, he kind of cut off communication. Like he said, he had bandages on. And I was like, really? I just, you know, I wasn't that bad, I didn't do anything. But you know what, he said, I can't trust you. Who's to say, because honestly, I read a lot of books, and it said, 90 days, you should know. It's going to either the relationship's going to go, you know, flourish, or, and I said, it's been 90 days and I'm not in love with you, and, you know, it sounds pretty harsh, but, you know, and then I find out that if somebody is giving me a lot of attention, that's very uncomfortable for me. I'm more comfortable chasing after you. You know what I mean? Because I'm more comfortable trying to get you to love me. If you love me, it's like, whoa, get back, get back. And I'm just finding this out. And it's like, you know, I'm not a young chick. So it's like, okay, how do I fix this? Because I don't want to live my life, you know, you like me, I don't want you. You don't want me, I'm in love with you.
Right.
You know, I do not want to live like this anymore. So.
May I ask what book is this you were reading?
It's been so many years.
It wasn't Steve Harvey book, was it?
No.
So Double Love, where do you think all that came from
Which part?
in your life? The pushing away.
I think, well, I happened to go talk to somebody this week, because this is very recent too. And she said, because I told this man, you care more about me than my parents did. And she goes, bingo, bingo, when you said that, don't you think that was something? And yeah, I guess I was always trying to get my parents' attention, affection. I know my parents love me, but, you know, they were young when they got married, and they didn't give you that kind of nurturing and affirmation that, you know. And so she basically says, you feel like you're unlovable, or you feel you're unworthy of love. So I go, how do I fix that? And she goes, you got to get another relationship so we can work through that.
Healing. You're healing.
But yeah, that was you know.
And it's true. There is no right or wrong in all that we do, honestly. We're just people trying to figure it out. And that's what God has made us. It's really how we figure it out. It's you know, when we make a mistake, all that God wants us to do is give it to Him and acknowledge it. And that frees us from all that shame. It really does. Did anyone else? Yes.
Yeah, let me,
Mystery Man, yes.
If I just may add, you know, just a little bit to what you're saying. I think, well, I mean, first of all, thank you for sharing. This is really good, and part of it hits home for me. And a lot of women I've dealt with personally, and those I know other men have dated or been with have dealt with personally, is the issue that you're mentioning right now. The fact that even I've dealt with that a whole lot myself. I've come across women that I've had interest in, but when I'm the jerk or the bad boy, they tend to come around so much quicker. No, seriously, there was one time that it really affected my self-esteem, because I actually actively did that. I was the super nice guy. They considered me educated and smart and really sweet, whatever. And I was not getting anywhere. And I looked at my other guy friends, and I'm like, he's a jerk. He is treating her like, I'm like, he's not even nice. I'm the sweet guy. I will call you. I will do all those things. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like you just mentioned. I'm that guy. And I noticed it was not really getting me anywhere, really. So I started pretending to be like the other guys.
Yes.
I was the jerk. I was the cool guy. I was the, show you no emotions, left you out there wondering where I am at. And so I did that. And I am being serious right now. The amount of potentials I had, it seemed like it went up 900%. And I'm really being serious with that. So, early on, now I know, it's just that the person is in a place where, they're struggling with accepting love, accepting themselves, understanding what true love is supposed to be like, or how God intended for them to see themselves beautiful and as that person they're meant to be. But I come across a lot of women who have that issue you have. And even my ex-fiance, she struggled with that too. Because I know at times when, I wanted to walk away from her, or I walked away and, or I didn't want to be there anymore. It seemed like she was pulling me and cared about me so much more than when I was the guy who were doing things right. It's like there were times she actively pushed me away and she didn't really appreciate anything. So, for me, this is something that I've really wondered about. So you bring it up,
Thank you.
Is really, but there's a lot of women out there who really do struggle with that. Yeah.
I've been like that since 6th grade.
Wow.
Like and I didn't really think I was like that, but after this all happened, everybody goes, you do that all the time. And I was married for like 4 years. I got married later in life. And they go, how did you ever marry your husband? And I kind of wonder myself, like, how did that even happen? But, yeah. So, thank you. I thought I was the only one,
No,
that
you're not. A
like
lot of
this.
women do that.
And this is why it's so wonderful to have a man on our panel. And I would love to even have more men on our panel, because we're all the same. How we approach love, how we find love, is very different, but it's probably been what I'm starting to hear and understand. For men, it's hard because they have had to, they've been taught, you're supposed to do all these things, but when you do it, you don't get back what you thought you were going to get. So now I'm understanding that, of course they're going to feel, not appreciated. And so what do you do with all that emotion? Like, sure, you're going to push back. Sure, you're going to push back. And it takes a lot to get back to that place. So when we talk about relationships, that if you're in a serious relationship with somebody, you can see how this pushing and pulling stuff is just, it's just a part of our human nature. So the more that we learn about what not to do and what to do, lean in and still be or do the best you can with trying to figure out where that other person is coming from. I think we said, in our last show on Thursday night, we're human beings and it tends to be all about us. But the more we think about other people, of their feelings and their emotions, and that doesn't mean 24 hours a day you're going to do that. But when you really give of yourself to another human being, it makes a world of difference. Whether you get back what you want or not, you walk away feeling better about who you are, right?
I think also when it's been quite some time, and you want to date, and like I've had a few men come back in my life, but I know the life that I'm leading, and that God has me in, and that I'm walking obediently, and so I'm very open and I share that, and I know that even some of those men that come back in my life, this gets back to Lady Stylish the other night about, when God places somebody back in your life, you're wondering, why does God keep putting this person back in my life? Well, we know they're not right, obviously, because it didn't work out the first time, or maybe it was a different circumstance, and then they come back, and then I push away because I'm like, oh, I don't know if I can do this. Like, I'm scared. I'm nervous. You want it so bad, and you want to have that relationship, but you don't know. And then you explain and like, okay, well, let's just take it slow. But then you're like, okay, no. So this person, just like Lady Stylish the other night, I mean, I realized then, I kept saying, okay, God, you keep putting this guy in my life, and there must be a reason. Like, we click, but there were some culture issues, but I knew we could work through them. It was just communicating. But it was clear then that sometimes God places people back in our lives. I really believe He does that to test us, to see, are we being faithful? Are we being obedient? Are we truly who we say we are? And I've experienced that just twice lately, and I've had to walk away because it's not godly. And as much as it hurts me, I'm still friends with them. I can communicate, but that's as far as it goes. So, on another note.
Well, I'd like to remind everybody that's listening that the number that you can also call in at Love Connection is 561-531-6092. We'd really like to hear from you. If there's anyone out there that's relating to anything that we're talking about, please call in. Again, that number is 561-531-6092. So, what we're talking about is relationships, and if we ignore our partner's love language or the person that we're having a relationship with, it's like we're ignoring that there's weeds in the garden and they really need to be taken up. And there's times where, where you just need to talk about something and you don't always get that person that wants to communicate with you. And I think Lady Stylish said that, she's got 5 family members that are kind of congregating and feeding off the negativity and not having opened their hearts back to her, and that hurts. So it will be interesting if you follow up with us to let us know if you decide to write that letter, what does come from it, and if nothing comes from it, and how it is you feel. So if you report that back to us, that would be wonderful. I'd love to hear that. So what do we do? What do we need to do in relationships? Is just water and fertilize the garden, or it just slowly dies. The relationship dies. And if the relationship, whoever it is in your life, is important enough, it is going to take you as a person to do something different that you've ever done before. And it's not always, doing what you think. Sometimes it's walking away from the relationship because that's what's got to happen to think through how you want to approach it next. Sometimes it's a matter of walking away to be able to do that. Or if you said something, apologize. Doesn't mean the relationship's going to be fixed, but apologies are for us, not really for them. Even though it can make a world of difference for another person, apologies it's all about, healing our hearts to do the right thing. And I know for a fact, I'm looking over here at Double Love, because I know for a fact that she's done some apologies that are really heartfelt. Do you want to share about it? No?
What do you mean?
You don't have to speak on it if you don't want to. Well, the text that you wrote.
Oh, yeah. Well, when I went for counseling this week, and then I got a text from him, and I wanted to share that with him. And, I kept going on and on and on, and it was just radio silence. I didn't get any response back. Before, anytime I would send a little text, I'd give a little smiley face or always acknowledgement, but I never, it's been radio silence. So.
Is this for us?
But you know what? I guess, you have to do it. You have to do what will make you feel good. You know what I mean? Like, I felt like I needed to say, hey, you were a great guy, you were this, you were that, I'm sorry what I put you through. And, thank you for waking me up.
I showed you.
And, I didn't even get anything, like, nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah, so it's okay, but at least I put it out there,
Sounds
right?
That's good.
That's good.
That's
Yeah.
what matters.
And he's probably hurt, but he's probably having to go through a healing process just like we do.
Yeah, and he could have another girlfriend. You know what I mean? That's my thought. But you know what? But that's neither here nor there. But like, okay, so how do I get over obsessing about this every day? That's where I'm at now.
Do I pick it up?
Yes, good evening.
Good evening, are you there?
Yes, I'm good. This is hi guys, how you doing?
Good, is this Emmanuel?
Yes.
Oh, I'm so glad you called. What would you like to share?
Definitely, I have a question. So many things that you guys are talking are very interesting. And my question is, should I admire their happiness for the success of a relationship? You know? And then that's a question that I would like to know. Because should you compromise your dreams, you know,
Oh, compromise.
your goals and things that you want to do in life and for the success of the relationship, like if the other person is not into it as you are into it. So basically, that's basically one question. One of the questions that I want to say. I don't know if I can call back later on and then and ask more questions, but definitely that's the question that I would like to address to you guys. Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm glad that you threw that out. He was asking, should somebody compromise in their life, their happiness for another person, their career for another person? Is that correct, Emmanuel? Did I interpret that correctly?
Yes, that's the question that I asked. Yes.
Okay. Would anybody like to respond to that? Well,
Is this a marriage or just is this a
Well,
marriage
just
or
a
is this
relationship.
just
yeah, what kind of... We lost him.
No, you just hung up your call back.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think that's, first of all, I don't think that we can answer for anyone because that person has to make that decision for themselves, but if that person's important enough, they might want to compromise where it is that they can improve upon. Maybe it doesn't have to be a total give up of this and a give up of that, but it could be something simple that could make all the difference. That person's heart opens up to say, oh, this isn't so bad after all, I can work with this. Or to find out how it is that, what is it that that other person is really looking for? Is it that they think that, is that what they want? You to give up everything for them? So.
I believe in any relationship, if there's no compromise, it's not. The only thing being,
That's a good point.
when you compromise, it doesn't mean that you're giving up your life.
Right.
I would say there's a line you don't cross. And why you in the first place, why you have to compromise? Is the relationship worth it? You know what I mean? You have to balance everything, but in any relationship, there must be compromise in order for it to survive. And you have to, in any relationship, for the relationship to work, we have to keep the baggage behind us. When you take a baggage you carry, that will be a big issue.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you, Claude. Oh. Do we have a stage name? Mr. DT.
Mr. DT.
Mr. DT.
Well, I have a question. It's so hard. I think the older you become, the harder it is to relinquish that baggage. At least for me, I don't want to be speaking for everybody else because you're older, you have more stuff you're carrying, so I don't know about anybody else, but for me, it's quite difficult. And 1 minute I'm thinking, okay, I'm fine, and then 2 days later I'm like, then I'm just like overthinking something, and then, one little thing can happen, and I'm like, oh, CC, okay, yep, this is it, this, like this happened before, and then this happened, and this happened, so I don't know about anybody else, but it's quite difficult for me to relinquish baggage, even though I want to relinquish it. It's not like I want to hold on to it, but every time something happens, it sort of sparks like a recall. Sometimes I think I'm in post-traumatic stress.
That triggers.
Well, let me ask you this question. what is holding onto the baggage doing for you?
Nothing. Control.
Okay. But how important is the control in your life? To have it.
Well, I think I'm sort of a controlling individual, like I guess because I don't want to say I'm anal, but I'm very organized in everything I do. My closet is color coded. You know, I do everything a certain way. So to me, that's keeping some type of order.
Okay.
Whether or not it's crazy order, it's still order for me. And it's not crazy, but it can be chaotic. And I don't know, I've spoken to my college roommate. We've known each other since I've been 17 years old. And she always tells me the same thing. She said, you are an overthinker out there. You overthink all the time. And she said, I know it's not easy I know it's not easy for you, but you'll have to try. But I just don't know. I think the older you get, the harder it is to let loose of that baggage.
Well, and the truth is that we don't let go of anything we don't want to let go of. And unless we personally think that this is holding us back from love or whatever it may be, then you're not going to let go of it until you're ready. And that's okay.
Yes, good evening.
Hello guys, this is Judith. I'm calling for the show. I have something that I would like to throw at you guys.
Oh, good.
So let me know when.
And what is your name and who's calling?
Hey everyone.
Butterfly?
Butterfly?
Yay, Butterfly. Thank you for calling in.
Yes, this is my view. One of you mentioned apology. When somebody apologizes to you, but sometimes it's not even sincere. It just says, okay, I apologize, and move on, and just to shut you down. Don't talk anymore, I apologize, but you don't see that person is remorseful. You don't even regret what they did or said. They just say that because to diffuse whatever tension that's going on. And also when it comes to apologies, because when you do it, when you wait too long to do it, it doesn't really mean anything. It's exactly, it's outdated, it's expired, it lost its meaning. And I don't know if it's just me who feels that way, or if you ladies and gentlemen feel the same way. So I'm going to think of a listen to what you guys have to say on that.
Has anyone had a situation where you feel that you've been apologized to and it wasn't sincere? Has that happened to anyone?
Probably several times for me.
Sure.
Probably several times. I mean, it's usually manipulation or to get what they want or to get forgiveness. In a relationship, it would be just to really try to think like they're making amends, but they're really not. It's just to appease you, to make you feel better. In the meantime, they're really getting what they want. And I was previously married, so I do know. So anytime he wanted to do something, he would do extra things nice for me, or try to, give me money or the credit cards to go shopping or do any of these things after I said, well, no, it's family time and this is what we do. We're married, you know what I mean? We need to spend time together. Spending time together is not you on the golf course 24/7, So those arguments, would always come and go. However, he would always try to appease me by trying to give me gifts and then, I think try to sell me and appease me by saying he's apologetic, but he was trying to use some of these 5 love languages, so that words of affirmation would come and the gifts would come in, and all of a sudden the quality time, I'm going to give you quality time, and then the physical touch, and then we'll be back to the same old thing over and over. So
behavior was louder than words for you?
Yeah.
The behavior became louder than words.
So how did you truly feel when that happened? Did you feel being cheated, or do you feel like you've been used?
All the above. I felt manipulated, I felt used, I felt unloved, unwanted. I felt like, you know, this is not a marriage. And I think it became so normal that I just went with it for as long as I could, but I just let him think that I was buying it, but I started I turned the tables a little bit.
So basically your love tank went so low that it never recouped back.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But how long did that take to really happen? Like how many years was it before you got to that point?
Probably a few years, a couple of years.
Mm-hmm. And so the inevitable is that the relationship's going to end if in fact people feel manipulated and used and it's not sincere. So somebody, you know, the words, and I think that, you know, actions do speak louder than words. I mean, we all want to hear nice words, but when somebody says they're going to do something and then they do just the opposite, you're not listening to the words anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Or nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah, that's just hurtful. It is hurtful. Yeah. So, is there anything that in your marriage he could have done to turn it around with any of these things that we're talking about? At some point, was there a point? What is your love language, first of all?
I probably have several of them.
But there is one, and
Yeah.
we may not even be aware of what the top priority is. One of the, and let's just talk about this for a minute. If you can't figure out which one yours is, Gary Chapman says to ask yourself, what does your partner do or say, or fail to do or say, that hurts you deeply? And that will tell you which one your love language really is. Mm-hmm. So when you got hurt deeply, what was it? What was being said? Was it words of affirmation?
Well, it was the reverse of words of affirmation because there was no affirmation.
Okay.
And the quality time definitely wasn't there.
Uh-huh.
Physical touch only when they wanted to.
Uh-huh.
Or there was, sometimes men think that that's the way that
Mm-hmm.
it'll change things, it'll make things better. You know, a woman will forget whatever the circumstance or situation that just happened, and that's kind of how that, it was like a revolving, it was like a record player.
So what allowed you to marry him when he was doing things right? What was it that he was doing right?
He was showing me every single one of these.
Okay. What was the top one though for you?
The top one for me was probably quality time at that point. I mean, words of affirmation and quality time. I mean, it's hard to say.
So that's
he really did
that's
everything.
why every time he said to you, you know, I'm sorry or whatever, because words of affirmation aren't that important to you. What's most important to you? Quality time shows me. Your behaviors show me.
Mm-hmm.
So for you, all of this other stuff, you can give me flowers till doomsday. You can bring the chocolates. You can do all of this stuff.
Exactly.
But because he didn't know who you were, and knowing, you kept repeating, and you've said it numerous times, but I wanted you to recognize it, was quality time was number one for you. So it doesn't matter whatever else was done to patchwork this. He was never giving you the quality time you wanted, and so that it kept snowballing and snowballing and snowballing.
Absolutely.
I was like, maybe he didn't know what that meant. Maybe he did know what that meant. And maybe he just didn't want to do it. But had you had the type of relationship with that person was willing to talk about it, maybe the light bulb could have gone on. But this is what we're talking about. At some point, you do make a decision that it's time to move on because I can't say anymore, I can't do anymore, I'm not getting what I need in the relationship, and we just have to accept that pray for them. That's what we have to do.
Totally.
And that's the hardest thing to do, is pray for somebody you're upset with, right? we really have to give them to God, and that's what we learn as being Christians. Yes.
I have a question for you ladies. I think, you know, hearing you talk and, you know, listening to all of you guys talk tonight, you know, about natural expectations you guys have, you know, that you deserve, obviously, you know, what love is supposed to be. But I guess my question is, I think a lot of men, and I myself too, you know, so I call myself out, I myself too didn't know about the 5 love languages. I think we come from a world naturally where, you know, you guys think so different than us, you know? And I know I've been beat over the head with a hammer many times. Many times I have deserved it. Many times I really didn't know. Like, there are things that are so natural to you guys that we men have no clue about it. And then we respond with the dumb answers, I didn't know.
Yeah.
You know? And then you guys are like, there's no way logically you didn't process this or you didn't know. Like, I have done that before. I really, like, didn't
Can you
know.
give us an example so that we can better understand where you're coming from?
Sure. I mean, you know, just talking about the 5 love languages, you know, I think I don't want to say I was doing so bad at it because I had told you I had come with a preconceived notion in my head of what love was, which did not, you know, fit what she was looking for. I'm the acts of service guy. I'm not a guy who talks so much in my background where I come from with my family, you know, I love you, a hug, and all of these things in the cup. No, my parents showed me that by, you know, they were always there, they were available, they fed us, they gave us the best through acts, you know, but my dad never told me he loved me or hugged me, you know, so that's how I naturally grew up. So, obviously, where I learned love is the kind of man that I'm going to grow up to be, you know. So that's how I was with her, you know, so I did that. But what she was looking for was, and I think our relationship struggled until she may have said it to me, but I didn't really get it. You know, you go back to what's natural to you.
Right.
I think it got to a point where she sat me down. She was like, do you know the 5 love languages? I'm like,
She did say that?
yeah, she did. I was like, what is that? You know?
What is that? Right.
She was like, there are people who are, you know, she actually broke that down for me.
She did.
And that's what jolted my spirit, you know, jolted my head to be more of the guy to tell her I love her and hug her, do all of those things.
Really?
But I think there are a lot of grown men out there, you know, who don't know this stuff, or who don't know where you guys are coming from.
Sure.
And I felt punished, to be honest with you. I'm like, I'm a good guy, I'm not a cheater, I'm not doing
Yeah.
nothing bad to you. I'm like, there are like, you know, top 10 terrible things guys are doing. I'm not doing any of these. So I kind of put myself on a pedestal. And I'm like, oh my God, I feel like I'm a trashy guy here, you know, until she took the time to explain to me, to show me. But I think a lot of women look at men like, you know what, you're a grown man, you need to know these things. Or I'm like expecting you to impress me on this level. But you may meet a man who is, I don't know, 20, 30, or even 50 years old. And he does not know these things. And I think sometimes, yes, I'm going to call you guys out, that sometimes you guys are not so forgiving or willing to be like, you know what, I'm going to, you know, work along this with him, even though it may be something pediatric to you guys. But to us, we truly may not know it. And sometimes that walking us there, you know.
What are in that situation? What exactly are you looking for from a woman when they're frustrated? I mean, are you looking for them to talk to you? What is it for you?
You're talking about in general when a woman?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we did go through.
How does the silent treatment work? Does that ever been used on you?
Yes, it has. It is scary.
And it's not good, is it?
Yes, it is absolutely scary. Yes, when you don't know what she's thinking, and she
Yeah.
was way smarter than me.
Yeah.
So I said, you know what, something's coming.
Yeah.
So yes.
And what was her
definitely
love
scary.
language? Just curious of all these love
She
languages.
said
Which one was she?
Affirmation.
What she expected? Yeah, she
Affirmations,
was affirmation.
okay.
Yeah, but for me, she pretty much did all of them for me. To be honest with you, she wanted a lot of quality time, but I think at the time I interpreted quality time as clingy. So I'm like, yeah, you know, so there's a whole lot that I
I'm glad
needed to
you
learn
said
from
that.
her. Yeah.
That's really important because I'm wondering, in the same situation that Jody Lynn was going through, if he was also feeling that. That's what his definition of quality time was, is being clingy.
Mm-hmm.
And for you, that's what it was.
Yeah, I mean, well, I thought that for some time, you know, until we grew, and I realized, you know, she's the type of person who was raised in a loving home where, you know, parents and family spend so much quality time together. And my family growing up, you know, I don't think we ever had really celebrate Thanksgiving where we sat at the table. And for her family, that was really huge. And I didn't really care so much to be there. She was like, do you know how big this is? Family Thanksgiving. But with my family, we never really did that.
Right.
So we had a lot of differences. Even though we were both Haitian, we had a lot of, you know, I guess cultural differences or upbringings that I think we needed to really communicate, work together so we can bridge that and then make something wonderful out of it.
And it sounds like there was a period of time you did have that.
Yes,
you were
we
able
did.
to talk about a lot of this stuff.
Oh, for sure. I mean,
Yeah.
that was the biggest thing I think that helped us so much. A lot of relationships, people don't communicate at that level or don't know how to communicate at that level. I mean, we had to get help from pastors, professional help. We read books on love.
Good.
I was up, you know, looking at videos on love, where women are coming from, what makes them happy, and all of these things. You know, so I was willing to actually.
I'm
yes,
impressed. Mr. Mystery Man.
yes. So I was willing to learn all of those things. You know, and I still got a lot of room to go.
But see, that's what's great, was that you were willing, you may not have
Yes.
known the answers, but you were willing to seek the answers out.
Yeah.
And that's all that we're looking for in any partnership, is that, you know, when something's not working, it's not working for a reason, and the only way, you have to talk, you have to be willing to listen.
Yes, that's huge.
And can I just say that my situation was not a clingy, and sometimes I think maybe he thought that, but not really, because I was a Navy wife, so he was gone a lot.
Yeah.
So I was really alone a lot. So
So what
I do
little
know-
time you had,
and
you
I had
needed
little
to-
time, so yeah, and it would be great at first when he came back, and then after that it would go right back to the same old thing, you know. But it was more of I instead of we. So
Yeah.
But even if you are talking or expressing to your partner because maybe as a male he doesn't understand, I feel sometimes I feel like I'm bugging. Is that something, like if someone keeps saying the same thing, not this, but you know, because women are more talkative. So we want to explain where we're coming from and this is what we need. And I feel like if you're repeating constantly, I almost feel like you're bugging the person or nagging, not bugging, nagging. Did it feel like she was nagging to you?
I think there were times that that did happen, but one of the things that I learned being in a relationship that helped me so much is the fact that, you know, coming in there with, you know, so much pride and ego is definitely going to end up hurting you. And you have to be willing to humble yourself, you know, to understand where the other person's coming from. So at first, there were times when I did look at it that way, but towards the end, I started like realizing, you know, hey, you know, she is expressing something to me here. So she has to keep saying it over and over again. Obviously, I'm not listening, and I'm not showing her that I care. So she'll get more agitated, and then I'm gonna have to hear more words. You know what I mean? So, but when it got to a point where I was willing to see where she was coming from as she was doing for me, that was very helpful, a lot for me.
Well, that's great.
I think that's pretty amazing though that she actually talked to you about the 5 love languages and sat you down. And I mean, again, it's kind of like we all learn it's lessons learned basically, just like Double L was talking, and like sometimes God puts people in our life for a reason, but it's to help us and to teach us and to guide us in the right direction. As horrible as we might feel how we treated somebody or what we've gone through, it's looking at the positive. So she received a positive, even though she might still feel hurt or he's hurt, but she has gained something from that. You've gained something from her just sitting down and taking and going over the 5 love languages with you and explaining them to you.
Yes, but I will admit though, please don't be so quick to give me credit, because I was not so receptive to it at first. Because remember,
We're giving her the credit. What are you talking about?
Oh, okay. I was about to say,
Giving her the
definitely.
credit. But you were. This is a lesson learned for you.
Yes,
Yeah.
my ego was hurt because a lot of men, you know, you want to impress your woman. You want to, you know, be the man. You want to have your shoulders back and be like, I know this, you know. And then she was like, "What's the 5 love languages?" I'm like, I know that. What's up? You know? And then that was when she broke it down for me. I'm like, I've never heard of this before. And she was like, do you know what mine is? And I was like, I don't know them. So, and then she went and broke it down for me. And then she explained to me what she thought mine was. And she was 100% on point.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that about her. So, yeah, for sure.
But Andre, I don't think it's just men
Mm-hmm.
that don't know about
Right.
the 5 love
Yes,
languages.
call the women out. Yes.
Yes, it's also women.
Women.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I wasn't familiar with the 5 love languages until I heard of Gary Chapman and, you know, the book,
Mm-hmm.
and started to look into it and started to understand what relationships was really about. But what I really started to do to really find out what relationships was about was to seek God more. And through that, I started to understand these 5 categories here, what love language is about, because to be honest, these 5 love languages is the same thing as having a relationship with Him.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
So
Wow.
that's the special point that I'd like to bring out of it right now in my life is these 5 languages relate to that. Learning quality time, giving your gifts, the physical touch, you really can feel the presence of God.
The Holy Spirit.
The Holy Spirit, amen.
Mm-hmm.
And the words of affirmation, the Holy Spirit talks to you through your meditation and through your studies. And I'm doing acts of service now for 5 years to the kingdom. So that's my point on the 5 love languages.
Can I just add real quick? Thank you so much for saying that. You know, I really feel like with what you just said, you really, really brought it home. Because at the end of the day, to know love, you have to know the source.
That's it.
You have to
The
be connected
source.
with the source.
You said it.
And I think for me,
know it.
you know, growing up, not having had so much of the 5 love languages displayed to me,
Yes.
and being a man and still struggling at some point, and there are still things that I don't quite know, but it was going to the Word, it was knowing Christ, it was, you know, even when you saw me at Belglade serving out there with you, you know, I was struggling with depression myself and a lot of different issues. And here I was, you know, a mental health counselor, and I'm the young guy, and then people know me all throughout the community, and I have this poser attitude, you know, looking super confident, you know, and I'm making everybody smile, but nobody knew what I was personally dealing with. You know, one, I didn't know how to talk about it, and number 2, I was raised in a place where, you know, men always appear to be strong. You never talk about your weaknesses, you know. But going out to Belglade, serving with you guys out there was absolutely awesome for me to experience the love from these kids. You know, being in that setting where, you know, when you're out there with these kids, you are constantly celebrated. You know what I mean? There's never a bad time. It's always awesome. The kids are there. We're talking about Christ. We're talking about love. So for me, as I submerge myself into that over the years, that's what got me to really truly understand love, because once you know the source, you understand it, and you are able to get that love from there. That's how you're able to radiate it from your spirit. That's how you're able to see that person, and you are assessing them based on the love that you're getting from the source, not from a dysfunctional place, not from, you know, a lot of people think love is sexuality. You know, you have a lot of young women out there who are giving that up, or you have people who think, you know, it's by giving me stuff, or it's by this and that. No, once you know it from the source, and that's how you're going to be able to judge that next guy, that next person. You're going to be like, is he showing me love that comes from the source, how it's supposed to be? So he's trying to impress me, you know, with a new car, or giving me his credit card with $5 million on it, whatever. You know, that may temporarily make you happy.
You want to test it out?
Yes, you know. So these things will temporarily make you happy.
Right.
But at the end of the day, you know, it's truly understanding and knowing what comes from the source, and having somebody, you know, give that to your spirit, and that's mine.
Because if you don't feel love, how can you give love, right? You can't if you don't know what it looks like. You don't know what it looks like.
Thank you for sharing that.
And when all else fails,
When all else
you
fails,
get a dog.
there you go.
Know what I'm talking about.
Everybody was sorry for you.
I have a dog
Other than
already.
Yes,
No,
I bet
no,
everybody
I do.
in here has an animal, and I want to kind of bring it back to all the people that are listening. Dr. DT is sharing with me, we have 85 people listening right now.
Oh, that's
And I would love for any one of you to call us at 561-531-6092 because 6092 561-531-6092. We really want to hear from you. We really want to hear what's going on in your mind as you listen to us. So we'll just take a few minutes to have a quiet moment. Maybe we can just have a quiet moment to let somebody call in. How does that sound, everyone?
Sure.
Great.
Awesome.
We'd love to hear from someone.
Skittles break.
Oh, I thought I was about to say Skittles.
No, I said Skittle break.
Oh, Skittles. Yeah.
Scooter break. Excuse me, sir. Would you like to share
Oh, absolutely.
your love connection? Thank you.
While we're waiting for somebody to call in, I want us all to think about, we're gonna do a little exercise tonight.
All right.
We're gonna pair each other up, and you're gonna pick one of the love languages, and you need to, and another person that's opposite of you, you're gonna face, and you're gonna have a conversation and kind of see what it's like to listen to what a person, make believe you're in a relationship with that person and you're trying to talk to them. Pick a subject, maybe you've got a challenge that you gotta work through, and you gotta try to talk to that other person in their love language. Because the truth of it is, we mentioned this before, it is a foreign language. It's not gonna feel comfortable. You're gonna have to think outside of the box to communicate with that person. And then we can hear what that other person felt as they were being talked to and what it did for them. So I just want everybody to kind of think about that. Think about what is your love language first. And as I hear whose love languages are what they are, we'll pair you up. And then we'll have to think of a challenge maybe that you're trying to work through. Does that seem realistic? Could be fun. That's a lot of people listening. 85 people listening right now. That's pretty exciting.
Very exciting.
And we're hoping that what we have to say, somebody's relating to this. And maybe they've got a challenge in their life that they would like to call in and just share with us. And you don't even have to say what your name is. You can make up your name because our real names aren't out there. You can make up a name of who you want to be and just call into us and talk to us.
Yeah, the world's hungry for love.
That's right.
Very much
That's
so.
right. That's right. Has everybody figured out what their love language is, first of all?
Yeah.
Do you need any clarification? Okay, you already know, okay.
I can relate to Andre so much in what he's saying about his upbringing. And I'm also from an island, the Bahamas. And, you know, I had my father and my mother together, you know, up until I was 15. And the divorce came and the family broke up. But acts of service is something that's very common in households in the Bahamas and how they show love, because once again, actually I had this conversation with my mother and my father not long ago, since I've learned what love is all about.
Right.
I didn't learn it through them. I learned it through my Heavenly Father and giving myself, surrendering myself to subjection to learn how to love. I've been married. I didn't know how to love. I've been in relationships. I didn't know how to love. I'm just now knowing and learning and understanding the real meaning of love. So I can relate, because acts of service is what I always knew. and what I took into my relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Always giving in some way or form.
So is that your love language?
Yes, it
Acts of
is.
service.
Acts of service.
Okay.
Yes, and that's what I do.
I agree.
To express myself.
I
Mhm.
agree with Lava Girl. I mean, you're Bahamian, you're Haitian, I'm Jamaican.
Mm-hmm.
So, no, I didn't really learn like love through my parents, because I know everybody used to watch and live in color. Jamaican people got 5-6 jobs because they're always working.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Work it.
I was lucky enough to have my grandparents in my life.
Oh,
Mm.
yeah, that's true.
And I got to observe the love between my grandfather
Wow.
and my grandmother.
What did that look like?
That was definitely quality time, words of affirmation, acts of service, gifts. My grandfather was very attentive to my grandmother. You know, they